This is going to be the last one of these I make for a while. Or until something new comes out. Hello and welcome back to the lab. My name is Matthew Holden, and I will be your host. And we are back here for the third time today. And why are we back here for the third time today? Well, Wizards of the Coast dropped their official response. They didn't drop it on Twitter. They didn't do a tweet longer. They didn't do any of that. They dropped it on D&D Beyond, where they control the discourse about it, which I think is pretty. It's not a good look for them. Nobody can comment under it. There's no discourse about it. But I wanted to read through it for you guys while I'm on camera. If you guys want like a really in-depth analysis, I highly suggest you guys go watch D&D shorts. They do a great job of this. They've been on top of, everything about this. So this is going to be my reaction, and I will have to say, just by glancing through the animosity in here, it's coded, but you can feel it, and it feels like this was written by someone high up who really did not care. So we'll get into that now. And I kind of wanted to reveal that I could do this on a stream, but I think now is probably the best time that I can have two things on my screen at one point. But we're going to read through this, and I'm going to take a few breaks and talk about what's going on. So it starts with, when we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with three major goals in mind. Mind you, the original OGL was said to not need revision and was promised to us as an eternal document that would never be revised. And it had things in it if it was ever tried to be taken away from the community. So first, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. I can speak. And yeah, that was circling around. And in my original video, when we were going to give D&D and Wizards of the Coast the most amount of, grace as possible, I was actually going to bring up this one because the censorship thing can be used to help cut that off. But my suggestion was going to be to add a terms of service that they couldn't cut off, bigger companies or anything like that if they did not breach their terms of service. That was not in this, and it was just a blanket statement which gave him way too much power. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3 blockchain games and NFTs by making clear the OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. Now, I do think that the original OGL was made only for those, but I think that it spread much wider. Again, that was one of the things I would bring up with my video on giving D&D the most grace that it could have, would be that, maybe they just wanted to rope it back in. However, they made another blanket statement. It applied to everyone equally, and they did not care. They were trying to get as much money as possible. And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use their own commercial and promotional purposes. Now again, Wendy's made their own RPG using the open game license. A couple of other people have started to do that. And it's a real concern. And it's like, how do you protect the little guy in those cases? Well, the obvious answer is by trying to take money away from the big person. And I think that that is, again, part of the logic behind why they wanted to revise the OGL and why they got so many people with them. I don't think all of the people at Wizards of the Coast really really were just money grubbing. I think a lot of them were drawn in by these kinds of arguments. The thing is that actions do not match up words here. They talk about all of this. Yet what they did, it was just essentially taking money. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to take money and we're going to give that to smaller creators. No, it was just taking money. Driving these goals were two simple principles. One, our job is to be good stewards of the game. They kind of screwed that up. And two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Again, they were trying to take it away because it does. It does exist for the benefit of the fans. And when they revised it, it existed for the benefit of Wizards of the Coast. Oh, and the next sentence. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. Yeah, they have. Wizards of the Coast is bleeding out. They have internal people leaking documents because they have wavered. So the next paragraph. That was why our early drafts of the OGL included the provisions they did. You did not fully flesh out a terms of service. You did not fully flesh out any of these, and it gave you almost unlimited power. That draft language, D&D Shorts goes over this, but they weren't drafts. Was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. Okay, that one is true. They gave it to certain content creators to see, but they were trying to see how they would react. Whether they would just sign it without thinking about it. And they didn't. They gave it to the community. And the community obviously was not happy about it. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct, nobody wants that kind of stuff, but the old OGL had stuff for that in there. And it wasn't just that. It was complete control. What types of products the OGL covers? Again, original intent over what it covers now. I can see that argument. You still did not limit who you were taxing or what you could do. So you weren't like saying that the OGL now only applies to these certain avenues. Our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. We've already talked about Wendy's and Arby's and other people who have used the OGL content. However, we also got games like Knights of the Old Republic out of it. The OGL, the reason why it's so well loved is because it's so diverse. And anyone from the little guy to the big guy, anyone is welcome. It's like the Midnight Diner. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. Yeah, it was. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. First of all, you rolled a crit fail. And second of all, that's cringe. That's very cringe. So they're limiting what the OGL covers. Again, this is taking away from merch. This is taking away from video games you might build off of it. This is taking away from Critical Role, other streamers. The fact that those people exist, so they're essentially trying to take, now this language kind of flowers over it, but now they're essentially trying to take away the OGL from places like Critical Role, from places like Roll20, because they're streaming and not TTRPGs. And they're trying to take it away from other people who might use it for things that are not TTRPGs. And I think they'll even get more specific with it. I think before this is all said and done, they'll get so specific that it's only applies to things with Dungeons and Dragons, and essentially they can now take legal action against anyone who does not have the OGL. Which is kind of the thing. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. If you don't have the OGL, you can be sued if you take an idea or a rule from D&D. However, if you do have the OGL, you're now beholden to Wizards of the Coast. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplays, VTT uses, etc. remain unaffected by the OGL update. Does that mean that the old OGL content already released under 1A will, but does that mean that the new stuff that's coming out will remain unaffected? Can that stay under the first OGL? So this kind of this is a promise. We'll have to see for the official one. Again, this is all speculation, but content already released under the first OGL will remain unaffected. Anything you have, or like anything that uses the OGL from before, that's going to be fine. At least that's what Wizards promises right now. But again, it's like remain unaffected by the OGL update. Does that mean they're taking away the OGL from them? Will they not even have a choice to sign up? That's the kind of thing that you got to worry for, because if someone like Critical Role continues to use the D&D system on a stream and they're not protected by the OGL, they can get hit with legal action, and hard. That's not clear. And maybe I'm not a lawyer. Don't come at me with like the, oh, but Matthew, you didn't read the context. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know this. I'm speculating from what I can read. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. So essentially they're saying we're not taking money. It also will not include the license back provisions that some people were afraid was a mean for us to steal work. I mean, it very much was. That was one of the huge things. I didn't understand it fully, so I didn't talk about it a whole lot, but it essentially allowed them to say, hey, we like your content, and now we can sell it. That thought never crossed our minds. I can believe that one. I can believe that when they put it in, they didn't think any harm in it. And I think that like someone might have brought up that it might be interpreted that way. And then they were explained what the people actually meant. And, I can believe that, but it's the rest of this. It's everything together that makes that specifically hard to believe. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. Again, go watch D&D Shorts. He talks about this specifically. And specifically, if you sign up for the OGL, you are giving them your permission. You are giving them your permission, which means that, they don't technically own it, but you gave them the permission to be able to use it. So it's like the terms of service you never read, but it's much worse because this is your livelihood. The license back language, hold on. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. We'll have to see. We don't have a document. The license back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. That's been a thing for all of publishing. You've ever published a book, someone's going to come out of the woodwork and say that, you stole their idea. Freaking Michael Jackson has been called on that. Everyone in the entertainment industry has been called on that. That is just a regional hazard. You can't provide something like this. You've been dealing with it your entire time. It hasn't gotten worse all of a sudden. And if it has, I mean, this would be the place to put that. It's your thing. You could add citation at the end. Look at all these lawsuits that we've had because certain people, keep suing us over coincidental, similarities. It's a false problem. It's a false problem, and they're using it to justify something horrible. As we continue to invest in the game that we love, that's hard to believe, and move forward with partnerships in film, television, digital games. Yeah, in film, television, and digital games. They are not caring about the TTRPG community anymore because they're not making enough money from that. They realized when they signed off on the film that they could be making a lot more money in Hollywood and by making games, and that's where they're putting their efforts now. That risk is simply too great to ignore. It's not a risk. Again, it's a regional hazard. When you publish something like that, someone owns something that's slightly similar, and they will take you to court on it. And it's a false problem. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk. It means that they're still going to have the license back language is still going to be in there. It's just not going to be it's not going to be clear. It's going to be even more, dodgy to find it. But we'll do it without a license back. Oh, well, I should read the next sentence then. But we'll do it without a license back and without suggestion that we have rights to the content you create. No, you get to sign over those rights. That's the thing. Your ideas and imagination are what makes this game special, and that belongs to you. I agree with that. The full stop, I agree with that. Do I agree that they meant it when they said it? I don't think so. A couple of last thoughts. Yeah, we're here. First, we won't be able to release the OGL today. Yeah, they won't release it till the hype dies down. Because we need to make sure it's right, but it is coming. Second, this is the worst part of it. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. It did. It did. You released an unfinished document that did not have any of the protections for the consumers that it needed. And then you're asking us to just believe that you would have added those, even though in the turnaround time base that you gave, there was no way you could have added those protections in. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. There's no winning here. Because again, Wizards can just force this through. They can continue going through with it if they want to. They will lose a lot of trust, but they will have an audience that sticks with them. They're saying this so that the hype dies down faster. And unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen. I'm paranoid, but I'm also a cynic. And I think that the average person is going to read this and be like, oh yeah, we won. The thing is, there is no winning in this. The only winning that will happen is if they truly change what they're doing. And it doesn't seem like they are. It seems like they're shifting to the left a little bit. Because they met a mountain, you might as well find a way around it. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. You could have put out like polls on D&D Beyond. You could have. They did a ton of stuff for 1D&D, and they didn't do any of it. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. You don't choose a specific set of people. You give it to the community. You set up polls. You set up surveys. There's a whole thing. We want to always delight fans and create experiences together that everyone loves. We realize we did not do that this time, and we are sorry for that. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and what did not. Which we ultimately got from you. Yeah, you kind of did, because you kind of poked a sleeping bear that you didn't realize was a bear. I said this in my first video. The TTRPG community has been outcast once. We are jaded, we are cynical, and we are paranoid, and we know when we're being played. You know? Those kids at school that pretended to be friends just to make fun of you. That's Wizards of the Coast right now. And it stings with the amount of bullcrap they're trying to throw onto this. Any change this major could only have done well if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided. They're trying to swing this like, yeah, we're glad that you guys all canceled your subscriptions. That's not it. They're trying to very quickly be like, yeah, we're glad that you did it, so please stop. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't. You got roasted. What are you talking about? What you need and what scares you. This is why I hate this right here. What you need and what scares you. Like they're like a baby mama, you know, that they're taking care of the community. They're not. They work for the community. They work for us. They're belittling the community that made them what they are today. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry at this. I know it's hard to tell. I'm one of those people that gets really quiet when I get angry. And because I have to read this, I'm actually very talkative right now. But believe me, it sits in my gut and All right. We've got one more line. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. How? Because this last closing line is just, we love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. That's a sign off. Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. How will you make this right? You broke trust. You gave people stress to the point that, people have broken down crying on camera. People have come out of, long-term, social media silences to talk about this. The fact is that you've disrupted a community that, wasn't exactly the easiest to please in the first place. And you've made them all angry. How are you going to make that right? I think if we're going to take anything from this, D&D is going to have to hand us something absolutely fantastic in the OGL. They are going to have to roll back all the bad provisions and give us something major to recover any of the damages that they have invoked based on this. And I don't think they're willing to do that. I think we are witnesses to the demise of Dungeons and Dragons. And I think the only people who are to blame for that is Wizards of the Coast. But who knows? I will surely be covering the next bit of information that comes out. This video is already way too long. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope you at least learned a little bit. I know I haven't gone super in-depth with the other leaked documents. I highly suggest D&D shorts. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all when I see you all next.